My wife's promotion came with a work mentor she never mentioned. Suspicious. I checked our shared bank account. She had been dining at five-star restaurants during her lunch breaks. That night, I whispered, "How's your mentor?" She froze. Then I held up a receipt I found in her purse, signed with his name. Her eyes filled with panic, because she knew she couldn't lie her way out of this. I, 42 male, have been married to my wife, 38 female, for 14 years. We have a daughter, Lily, who is 9. We live in Chicago, not far from the Loop. I used to work in logistics, but after Lily was born and my wife's job picked up steam, I started working part-time and from home so I could handle most of the parenting. My wife, Natalie, works in advertising. She's always been the career type, driven, confident, smart. I've never had an issue with that. In fact, I've been her biggest supporter since day one. I was proud of her when she got promoted to senior brand manager at the end of last year. She was excited. I was too. She said the promotion came with more responsibility and higher stakes. She also mentioned a mentor, some guy from the New York office named Rick who was supposed to guide her through leadership stuff. She barely said anything else about him, just that he was smart and had helped other women grow in the company. I didn't think much of it. Didn't even ask what he looked like. She made it seem like it was no big deal. Then things started changing. She began dressing up more for work. Not just nice, designer-level clothes. Expensive bags. Shoes I had never seen. I thought maybe she just wanted to look the part now that she had a higher position. But it wasn't just that. She changed her perfume. She started wearing more makeup. She looked great, but it felt off. Her schedule changed too. Suddenly she had strategy lunches and client meetings several times a week. Sometimes she'd say she was meeting with a colleague to brainstorm, or she had a mentorship call. These started happening more often, sometimes on weekends too. She'd say she had to prep for big campaigns or attend leadership meetups. She told me not to worry, that it was all work-related. I tried to trust her. I didn't want to be the jealous husband, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Then one day, she came home late. She said her team stayed at the office to review a pitch deck. She smelled like fancy cologne and wine. Not her usual. I leaned in to hug her and caught the scent of something else, cigar smoke. Natalie doesn't smoke. No one she works with smokes either, at least not that I know of. And it wasn't cigarette smoke, it was cigar. Strong. Rich. It stuck to her coat. I didn't say anything right away. Instead, I logged into our joint bank account. We don't really check each other's spending. But now I wanted to know what was going on. That's when it all started to unravel. Over the past 6 weeks, there were charges I hadn't seen before. All during work hours. Lunchtime. $187.45 at RPM Steak, $212.60 at Maple and Ash, $199 at Oriole, $240.20 at Alinea, $184.55 at Gibson's Italia, and those are just a few. I'm not stupid. Those aren't solo lunch spots. That's 2 people minimum, 3-course meal kind of prices. Some of those places are reservation only. You don't just walk in and grab a bite. I checked the timestamps. All during lunch or client meetings. And all of them charged to her personal card, not her work one. That made no sense. If these were legit client lunches, she'd use the company card, not ours. That night, while she was showering, I looked through her purse. I know it's not right, but I couldn't take the guessing anymore. Inside her wallet was a receipt from Maple and Ash, tucked behind a Starbucks gift card. It was dated 2 days before. 2 drinks, a Wagyu steak, crab legs, and dessert. $236.42. At the bottom, a signature, Rick M. No last name, but it matched the mentor she mentioned a while back. Right then, everything clicked. The meetings, the changes, the lunches, the clothes. She wasn't working. She was spending our money to eat with this guy. When she got out of the shower, I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just sat on the bed and said, "How's your mentor?" She froze. Didn't move. Didn't even blink. Just stared at me. I held up the receipt. Her hands started shaking. She sat down on the bed and looked like she was going to pass out. I asked, "You want to explain this?" She didn't lie. Didn't make excuses. She just said, "I'm sorry. That's all." I said, "How long?" She said it started in November, when she went on a work trip to NYC. That was 2 months after the promotion. Said she and Rick had dinner with a group, but after the others left, they stayed. Talked. Drank more. Went to a hotel. It wasn't supposed to happen, she said. But it did. And it kept happening. He flew in for work every couple weeks. They'd meet up for strategy lunches that turned into hotel rooms. She said it made her feel alive. Seen. Wanted. Like someone actually noticed her ideas. I asked her if she loved him. She said she didn't know. I asked if it was over. She said, "We haven't talked in a week." That wasn't good enough. She tried to explain it away. Said she felt lost. That my being home all the time made her feel like she had to carry everything. That I'd settled. That Rick made her feel motivated again. I told her she didn't look too motivated when she came home smelling like steak and cigars. She cried. A lot. Said she was sorry. Said she hated herself. I told her to get out. But I can't stop replaying the receipt in my mind. The way she froze. The way she let it happen again and again. The way she used our money to fund her cheating. It's not just about sex. It's about the lying, the hiding, the complete betrayal of everything we built. I haven't decided what I'm going to do. Divorce is on the table. So is separation. But part of me just wants to look Rick in the eye and ask what he thinks of ruining two families. Because, yeah, he's married too. That's all I've got for now. Still processing. Still hurting. Not sure how to move forward. But I'm glad I trusted my gut. Because if I hadn't checked that account, I'd still be in the dark. It's been 2 weeks since I found that receipt. 2 weeks since Natalie left. 2 weeks of silence between us, except for a few texts here and there about Lily. I've been trying to keep my head clear, but honestly, I feel like I'm drowning in rage and confusion. Here's what happened since my last post. So, remember how I said Rick, the mentor, was married too? I found her. His wife. It wasn't hard. All I had was a first name and a last initial, but LinkedIn's a hell of a tool when you know what to look for. I typed in Rick M, Marketing NYC, and boom, there he was. Rick Maddox, VP of Brand Strategy at the same company Natalie works for. His profile had his location, a picture, a short summary, and his wedding photo as his banner image. Him and a blonde woman holding hands on a beach. Classy. I googled her name from the wedding site he was linked to, Claire Maddox. And that's when I decided I was going to tell her. I didn't feel good about it. I'm not that type of person. But if someone knew what Natalie had been doing with my wife, I'd want to know. Claire didn't deserve to live in the dark while her husband was flying to Chicago for secret steakhouse dates and hotel rooms. So I messaged her. Short and straight. Hi Claire. I think we should talk. It's about your husband and my wife. This is not a prank or a scam. I'm not asking for anything. Just the truth. Please let me know if you're open to a call. She replied 2 hours later. What is this? I gave her my number. She called. Her voice was calm. Cold. Like she already knew something. I didn't hold back. I told her everything. The lunch receipts. The nights. The trip to New York. The receipt with Rick's signature. The confession. At first, she didn't say anything. Just breathing on the line. Then she said, "You're the second person to tell me something about Rick this year." Second person? She forgave him. Both times. But this? This was different. Because Natalie wasn't just anyone. She was part of Rick's leadership mentorship program. Claire said she helped design it. She thought she was helping women grow their careers. Turns out, her husband was using it as a dating pool. I asked her if she wanted proof. She said, "No. I believe you." Then she asked me the question I didn't expect. Would you be willing to meet me? In person? I didn't answer right away. She said she'd be flying to Chicago in 2 days for business and had a free evening. At first, I said no. It felt too personal, too strange. But after thinking about it, I said yes. Maybe it was selfish. Maybe I just wanted to see the face of someone else whose world was flipped upside down like mine. We met at a quiet cafe in Wicker Park. She walked in wearing a gray coat, minimal makeup, and that same calm expression from the phone call. She looked tired, like someone who's been holding things in for too long. We talked for over an hour. It was weirdly comforting. Like we were both witnesses to the same crime and finally found someone else who understood. She told me more about Rick. How charming he was in public. How smooth he acted around women. How the company praised him for being forward-thinking. Meanwhile, he was running around behind her back like a frat boy with a corporate card. Then she dropped something that knocked the wind out of me. She said, "You're not the only husband I've spoken to." Excuse me? There was another woman. Another affair. Another husband. Different city. Different situation. Claire said she's been slowly connecting the dots and building a picture of who her husband really is. Natalie was just one more name on the list. I asked her what she was going to do. She said, "I already hired a lawyer." I told her I hadn't decided yet. I still hadn't even told Natalie that I spoke to her. That night, I sat in my car outside the house, trying to figure out what to do next. I didn't have to. Because when I walked in, Natalie was sitting at the kitchen table, crying. She had let herself in with her old key. I didn't say anything. I just stood there. She looked up and said, "I know you talked to Claire." She knew. Rick had found out. Probably from Claire. Probably panicked. I asked her why she hadn't told me about the other affairs. She said she didn't know. That Rick told her she was different. That he'd never felt this connection before. That she was the one. I laughed. I told her she was a side character in a very long story. That hit her. She begged me to sit down. She said she wanted to explain more. Said she wanted to tell me the truth, all of it, even the stuff I hadn't asked yet. So I sat. And here's where it gets worse. She didn't just sleep with Rick. She almost left me. So Natalie stayed. And kept lying. I didn't even know what to say. I just stared at her. She said she hated herself. Said she got caught in a fantasy and didn't know how to climb out. That she still loved me. That she wanted to fix things. But how do you fix something when you were the backup plan? I told her I needed time. Now she's sending me long emails every night. Promising change. Therapy. Accountability. A full reset. Claire messaged me yesterday. Said she's filing. She also said this won't be the last we hear about Rick, because now the company's involved. HR. Internal review. There's about to be fallout, and Natalie might be caught in the middle. Part of me wants to warn her. Part of me wants to step back and let it all crash down. I don't know what happens next. But I know one thing. The story isn't over. Things got worse. Way worse. So, I told you in part 2 that Claire, the wife of Rick, the mentor, Was planning to talk to HR. I figured that would take a few weeks, that things would be quiet for a bit. I was wrong. 3 days after Natalie's emotional breakdown at our kitchen table, she called me in the middle of the day. I was at the grocery store with Lily, picking out cereal. Her voice was shaking. She said, "They know." I stepped outside. "Who knows?" She said, "HR, legal, her boss, everyone." Apparently, Claire didn't just go to HR quietly. She sent an email with receipts, screenshots of text messages, photos of Rick with different women, forwarded emails from Natalie, calendar events, even the restaurant bookings. She told me she felt like the ground disappeared under her. And then came the twist. They're not just investigating Rick. They're investigating her too. Turns out, since Natalie had technically been part of a mentorship program, and since Rick was her senior, the whole thing could be seen as a power dynamic violation. Even if it was consensual, it might have breached the company's ethics policies. Natalie didn't see it coming. She thought the company would quietly push Rick out and keep her on. Now she's on unpaid leave, sitting at her sister's place, waiting to find out if she's going to lose the career she spent 15 years building. I wish I could say I felt bad for her, but honestly, I don't. Because the next part of this story is what really blew the lid off. Lily found something. This part's hard. So, our daughter Lily uses the iPad sometimes for school and games. That iPad is linked to Natalie's Apple ID. Not everything syncs, but the Photos app sometimes pulls in images from iMessage and iCloud if you're not careful. Lily was looking at pictures from her last birthday when she swiped a few too many times and saw a photo of her mom in a hotel bed. Nothing graphic, but clearly intimate. Clearly not meant for her to see. She came to me and asked, "Why is mommy in a different bed?" I didn't know what to say. I took the iPad and went straight to the bathroom and locked the door. There were 6 photos. Selfies. Hotel bed. Mirror shot. Wine glass in hand. Different outfits. Some from back in November. Some more recent. One of them even had Rick in the background, shirtless, drinking coffee. I felt sick, but I also felt furious. Natalie swore she had stopped seeing Rick weeks ago, that it ended when I found the receipt. These photos were time-stamped 8 days ago. Then she sent a text. I lied. "I'm sorry. I messed up. I didn't know how to stop. He told me he loved me." I didn't answer, but it didn't end there. Last night, Natalie's dad called me. He lives out in the suburbs. We don't talk much. He's always been kind but distant. He said Natalie finally told him about the affair. Not the whole story, just that things happened, and our marriage was under stress. He told me something I wasn't expecting. He said, "This isn't her first time." I paused. "Excuse me." He sighed. "She did this to her last fiancé. Before she met you. Left him for a coworker. Same pattern. Same lies. I didn't think it would happen again. I really thought she changed with you." I sat there in silence. He kept talking. He said he always worried that Natalie had a switch in her, that when things got too real, too settled, she'd find a way to sabotage it. That she'd chase the next big high, the next admirer, the next chance to feel powerful. I wish I had known this sooner. Maybe it wouldn't have changed anything. Maybe I would have loved her anyway. But now, it just feels like I never knew her at all. So here's where I'm at. She lied about when the affair ended. She's likely getting fired. Our daughter accidentally saw a photo meant for Rick. Her own father admits this is a pattern. And yet, she's still texting me, still saying she wants to fix it. Says she wants to be a family again. I haven't replied. Because honestly, I don't even know what family means anymore when someone's ready to throw it away for a steak dinner and some fake admiration. I haven't filed for divorce yet, but the paperwork is sitting in my desk drawer, and I don't know how much more I can take. This story isn't done, but the version of us I believed in, that's long gone. The end didn't happen the way I expected. It wasn't quiet. It wasn't private. And it definitely wasn't clean. It happened at Lily's school. Yeah, a school event. And no, I didn't plan it. But once everything blew up, there was no stopping it. Let me take you back a few days. After the photo incident, the one Lily accidentally found, I stopped speaking to Natalie altogether. No calls. No replies. No updates. Nothing. I told her I needed space. I needed clarity. I needed to be a father first and a broken man second. Then came the parent-student night at Lily's school. Her class had been working on some presentation about family traditions. Parents were invited to come watch, then stay for snacks afterward. I was going to go alone. Afterward, there was a little gathering in the school hallway. Teachers, other parents, snacks on a table. That's when it happened. Natalie approached me near the lockers and whispered, "Can we talk? Just 5 minutes. Please." I told her this wasn't the place. She said, "If I don't say it now, I never will." I started to walk away, but she followed. She didn't care that people were around. She was desperate. She raised her voice. "I didn't just lie to you. I lied to myself. I don't love him. I never did." A few parents turned. I kept my voice low. This isn't the time. She didn't care. He used me. He used all of us. And I let him. I thought I was strong, but I'm weak. I let him ruin everything. Now everyone was watching, including Lily. She stood at the far end of the hallway, next to her teacher, staring at us. Confused. Worried. I looked at Natalie. I looked at our daughter. I knew I had to stop this, but it was already out. Claire looked at me and said, "I warned her there'd be a reckoning." And then she walked out. No drama. No screaming. Just truth, cold and clean. Natalie looked around, people whispering, teachers avoiding eye contact, parents pulling their kids closer. She was completely undone. I didn't say another word. I walked over to Lily, picked up her backpack, and said, "Let's go, sweetheart." We left. That night, Natalie showed up at my door. She knocked and begged to come in. I didn't let her. She cried on the porch for 10 minutes. Then her sister came to pick her up. A day later, I filed the divorce papers. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want drama. I just wanted peace. I told Lily the truth in the simplest words I could. Mom made some choices that hurt our family. But it's not your fault. We both love you. We always will. She nodded and said, "Okay." She hasn't asked many questions since. Just hugs me more. Sleeps closer at night. She lost her job. The HR investigation found inappropriate conduct and a breach of ethics. She wasn't the only one fired. Rick was too. Word is, he's trying to get hired by a smaller agency out west. Last I heard, Claire is still going forward with legal action. Probably a lawsuit. Maybe more. Natalie texted me 2 days ago. I ruined everything. And I don't expect forgiveness. But I will never stop trying to be a good mom. I believe her about that. But that's it. I've got nothing left to give her. So what now? I'm rebuilding. Slowly. I signed up for a co-parenting class. I'm seeing a therapist. I started working full-time again at a new logistics company downtown. I even reconnected with some old friends I hadn't seen in years. And for the first time in a long time, I feel still. Not happy, not sad. Just still. I don't hate her. Not anymore. And I'll never ignore my gut again. If you're still here, thank you. For reading. For commenting. For sending DMs. For reminding me I'm not crazy. And if you're in a situation like mine, don't wait for the whole house to burn down before you leave. Sometimes peace costs everything, but it's worth it. I'm moving forward. One quiet Sunday at a time.